The play takes place in Manhattan. The time is September 11, 2002. This is Eyewitness by David Gray.
On day 2 after the attack, so many families don't know the fate of their loved ones. As the rescue efforts continue, how do relatives and friends cope with the uncertainty? And in far too many cases, how do they cope with their grief? There is help, there turns out, and we get more on that from Newsline's Evie Mathis.
There may be emptiness in the New York skyline, but it doesn't compare with the emptiness millions of people are feeling today. They are trying to cope with the loss of family members, co-workers, neighbors, and fellow Americans. In fact, according to the trauma therapist Daniel Green, there is something about the entire horrific event which is unreal and almost impossible to accept.
Although your brain knows it happened, you can't even feel it, integrate it. So it feels like it didn't happen. Gradually, in the next few days, it will begin to set in.
Green knows how devastating the tragedies like Lockerbie, Oklahoma City, and even the 1993 Trade Center bombing actually were. He's treated victims of terrorist bombings before, but says this one is different.
I have never experienced personally or professionally anything like this.
He says that atrocity is so much bigger, so much more monstrous, that the healing process will be that much more challenging.
But here, it's mass murder. And it's mass murder perpetuated by people for reasons that are beyond our capacity to understand. It is the most incomprehensible and senseless of losses.
Green says that the magnitude of the attack is actually a double-edged sword. On one hand, the pain and loss is so widespread, it can intensify one person's suffering. On the other hand, there may actually be some comfort in sharing an experience like this with so many other people.
It's so crucial for us to recognize the commonalities of our experiences and to come together with them, to share the experiences and offer mutual support to each other. Perhaps the most important lesson for us all is that you can never get too close. Even trauma therapists are facing a situation we've never worked before, of this nature and of this scale. We're vulnerable too.
But Green says at the end of the day, there's only so much that counselors can do.
The most important thing is the support of family and friends. To be there to provide support for the survivor's emotional and physical needs, and not to feel compelled to communicate anything, but to listen and help them to know that they are not alone.
And Green says that people have to accept that things have changed, that it wasn't a bad dream.
There absolutely needs to be a reminder that the towers, our 2 towers, are gone and are not coming back.
For those who are suffering the physical or emotional effects of trauma, Green stresses that there are treatments that work. But he says that healing can last a lifetime, and some days are bound to be tougher than others.
We're now in the earliest stages, the basic saving of life stage, recovering bodies, treating the injured. Yet, it's important for us even now to anticipate the months to come, which will culminate a year from now, in the first anniversary. Eyewitness. Crawling on the floor, we lifted our heads to see our mother and father, pillars of strength, towering above. good, but something's missing.
How about, we are drawn to the call of Gabriel's healing horn.
Oh, let's see. We are drawn to the call of Gabriel's healing horn.
As we witness the angels silently descending Jacob's Elysian ladder.
As we witness the angels silently ascending Jacob's Elysian ladder. Oh, man, that's great.
No shit, Sherlock.
Gotta go see the man. I'm such a genius.
Genius. Typical shrink.
I'll never let you see the way my broken heart is hurting me. I've got my pride, and I know how to hide all the sorrow and pain. I'll do my crying in the rain.
So, how long has it been? 16 years? Remember me? I bet you need a leaf blower to clear the dust off my case file. Gee, Martin, you look like shit. Just kidding. No, honestly, you don't look so good. You okay? You know, I still disagree with you that I quit analysis because of resistance, that I couldn't take your transference interpretations. You said your silence reminded me of my father, but what I said didn't matter. Just like my old man, distant, controlling, passive-aggressive. You had me in a box. You were so old school, so Freudian. I bet you're still peddling your old pots and pans. Sex and aggression, transference and resistance. Transference and resistance, transference and resistance.
What the hell's transference and resistance?
Transference and resistance, the cornerstones of Freudian analysis, still relevant today. Transference, the patient projects their father or mother onto the analyst. Resistance, the patient feels threatened and fights the process. That's how we know we're on target. Just like Daniel. Oh yeah, there's also countertransference. The analyst reacts to his patient, either love or hate, usually both. Sometimes it comes from the analyst's personal problems, sometimes it's the buttons the patient pushes. Green was a master.
Yeah, transference and resistance. The Laurel and Hardy of psychoanalysis. What's the matter? Freud got your tongue? Or were you just following orders? Martin, why didn't you tell me? What, you thought I wouldn't care that a scribbled note on the door would suffice? I can still see it now as plain as day. So, I come for my appointment, and what do I see? Dr. Waterman will be out of the office indefinitely. What genius wrote that note, huh? Sheila, your wife? Huh? By the way, I know it wasn't your secretary who called her with the good news, that you'd be out 3 to 6 months. It was Sheila. She was crying through the whole conversation. That was a dead giveaway. And I had to discover the truth from another patient? That you collapsed right in the middle of a session? He told me how he helped the emergency squad take you out on the stretcher and load you in the ambulance. I felt my heart sink. You had a heart attack. And then you came back and pretended like nothing happened. Sat there like a fucking sphinx. Not a word. You changed after that, yeah? And I had to watch my balloon drift silently away. Maybe I could have helped. Maybe, given you support, encouragement. Maybe we could have. Maybe we could have gotten closer. Martin, why didn't you tell me?
What do you call a duck with no wings?
Unflappable. You're unflappable. Want to hear a joke? Oh, you remember I used to start a session with a joke just to break the ice. Well, why abandon that time-honored tradition, huh? A jazz musician dies and goes to heaven. He's greeted by St. Peter, who says, because you've led a good life, I'm going to let you join heaven's all-star jazz band. So, St. Peter leads him into a large room, and all the greats are there. Ellington on the piano, Krupa on the drums, Bird on the sax, Goodman on the clarinet. In the corner is a fat, bald old man in a white robe lamely wailing away on a trumpet. The musician asks St. Peter, who's that? St. Peter replies, oh, yeah, that's God. He thinks he's Miles Davis.
Good one, Doc.
Did I espy a smile creasing your face? Come on, you can do it. I'm having a small talk. It's time to play You Bet Your Life. Say the secret word, and the duck comes down and he gives you $50. So why am I here? Thanks for asking. Certainly not to take my frustrations out on you, although it is tempting and fun. You're such an easy target. You have to sit there and take it, stewing in your own counter-transferential juices like a deadpan dartboard. Dr. Martin Waterman, the Buster Keaton of psychoanalysis. The Great Stone Face. I used to fantasize you were the fifth head on Mount Rushmore. Is it true the emergency squad once used the jaws of life to pry open your mouth? They tried for 2 hours, broke the damn thing, and gave up. Ah!
It's true, I was there for that one too.
All right, I'll joke aside. I'm here because I need someone to talk to. Someone who knows me, someone I trust. It's over here, and I've treated over 600 survivors. People trapped, rescuers, family members. I've been exposed to countless ways to die, each more horrible than the next. I'll spare you the details. Somehow certain survivors have stayed with me more than others. 3 of them, and I can't tell you why. Their faces and their stories keep popping up in my head. So I'm one wounded duck, turning on a spit. And if I don't open up, I'm gonna platz. You know platz. It's Latin for explode. Well, there are plenty of terms for it. Burnout, depletion, compassion fatigue. I call it being a human piñata. I know compassion fatigue has become compassion collapse. I took 2 weeks off at Christmas and my body couldn't relax. Well, that's not exactly true. My muscles relaxed, but my ligaments didn't. And that's not a joke. At a conference last June, I spent most of my time hiding in my room, except for when I had a lecture. The title of my speech, Treating Survivors of Terrorism with Brain Spotting.
What the hell is brain spotting?
Brain spotting. Works like a laser beam. You guys may not know this, but the couch, it's passé. The therapeutic relationship is still very much alive, but talk on its own is dead, especially Martin's cherished relic, psychoanalysis. We are now in the era of the brain, and that has infiltrated the inner sanctums of the therapy office. How so? We call it brain-based therapy, reaching the mammalian and reptilian centers of the brain. They have no words and no thought because they are purely instinctual, archaic, but all-knowing. My version was brain spotting. Where you look affects how you feel. Really. It's true. You may not have heard about it, but your field of vision reveals where you are holding your trauma in your brain. Really. So why would anyone go for Martin's spatial analysis? That's what I kept asking myself. Brain spotting. Psychoanalysis on speed. Freud's dream and your nightmare. The shit really works. You should learn it. Then you can use it on me. Got it done. You know, there were more than 1 million eyewitnesses. Christ. And I don't care what the studies say, seeing it on TV doesn't compare to seeing it in person. Hello, Martin, is this thing on? 1, 2, 3, testing. A little feedback wouldn't hurt. You know, Healing starts at the beginning. That's why the first thing I ask survivors is, where were you when you heard something was happening at the Trade Center? You know, like the old Kennedy assassination question.
I just finished my shift. I was on my way home.
So here's my story. It's sad but true. About the girl that I once knew. I was in my Long Island office when my assistant told me about the first plane hitting. Then I went right into my session. Should be used to it by now. Seems I always heard bad news in the office. Challenger exploding. My father's cancer diagnosis. My son being dragged underneath the car. Oh, don't worry, Jonathan recovered. Not sure I can. I can tell that to you. No one else. So I wasn't traumatized by what I saw. I was traumatized by what I didn't see. And while everyone was watching the events on TV, the images I saw were there in my mind's eye, along with the questions I couldn't get answered. What happened to the planes? In what directions did the buildings fall? How many people were in them? I knew they could hold for 30,000 people. How many were dead? What happened in the subways underneath? Later that day, Nina, you remember my wife, she asked me, why did you hang up on me? I don't remember that conversation. Still don't. Now that's scary. I've had my share of gaps since then, but I haven't found any strange clothes hanging in my closet with the price tag still on them. Not yet. But my last client, that day, I was toast. The guy was in better shape than I was, so I canceled his appointment and tried to reschedule him in my shaking appointment book. He had to do it for me. Of course, he was a 911 operator. You know, Martin and I didn't come back for analysis. I gave up that ghost eons ago. I need some feedback, some guidance.
Enough.
Huh? Huh? Oh! You can't speak. I thought you had a vocal cord vasectomy.
Okay, if you boys don't break it up, I'm going to run the both of you in.
I guess I'll go. So I was an eyewitness, but only in my mind's eye. Only you can't imagine the unimaginable. It was almost a relief to finally see all the images on TV, especially at my home, with my family. But then I realized that I had joined everyone as an eyewitness of the murder of 3,000 souls in our home, in our backyard. I was invited to share my expertise on TV the next day. Yeah, me. Don't give me that smirk. I left for Manhattan at 3 a.m. September 12th, driving on desolate highways, protected by the National Guard. The only way I got in was with my credentials as a trauma therapist. The drive over the East River was surrealistic. As I entered the empty Queensboro Bridge, the weirdest sensation came over me. This great hand of black ribbon seized my car. One ribbon, finger snaked through my window, enveloped my face, and depressed my chest. A voice pleaded from the back seat, "Please, Daddy, don't make me go. Oh, I'll be good." So I leaned hard on the accelerator and escaped the dark grass. Only now I was riding a roller coaster with black ribbon, pitching and rolling. The north above was placid and dark, but the south, reflected in the waters below, was a river Styx of smoke. Flames and scream nearing the end of this bridge of sighs. My head lurched forward, my eyes opened, and suddenly all was straight, silent, and still. Manhattan was deserted, except for a few army vehicles floating by. I parked my car in a lot, and walking on 49th Street, I saw 3 lost souls seated in a diner, right out of a Hopper painting. I spent Wednesday at NBC talking on the news and answering calls from Panic View. Is my advice: hug family members, stay with friends, try not to be alone. The newsman asked me on camera, what do we tell our children? I replied, listen to them, then respond. I was done by 6 p.m. Back walking on 49th. On 6th Avenue, I glanced left. And way down, at the end, all I saw was sky. Choked by waving fingers of black smoke. Nothing blocked my view. And I saw they were gone. That's the image that sticks in my head. Driving home, I caught a glimpse of Manhattan. My eyes were drawn to the Empire State Building, now the highest point. Again. I saw the skyline of the city where my father worked, the skyline of my youth. And in the back of my car, I saw the reflection of a sleeping 3-year-old boy slumped over in his child's seat. I had a dream last night. By the way, what did Martin Luther King say to his analyst? I have a dream. Anyway, I dreamt I was standing at the feet of a giant, wearing blue pants. His legs ascended to heavens. I started climbing up one of his legs. Halfway up, the pants turned to steel, and I realized I was climbing the facade of a skyscraper. As I reached the top, a flock of birds appeared out of nowhere and swirled around me. And as they landed, I saw that the flock was an assemblage of doves and ducks and gulls. Just then, a blinding flash erupted. The birds rocketed off in a vortex of dust, screams, and beating wings. I felt my back, and I discovered a tiny pair of wings. I started flapping them furiously, but they were too frail to lift me. The building started swaying and groaning. Suddenly, the structure collapsed, plummeting endlessly. Moments before I was crushed, blinded by the falling debris, I felt a tug on my frail wings. I looked back and saw the long arm pulling me to safety. When the cloud cleared, I was at an empty subway station. And all I could make out was this sign, G-A-B station. The full name was obscured by dust. So I wiped away the dust and revealed the words. Gabriel Station. And I heard the blast of a horn and the sound of beating wings. Then I woke up. The dream reminded me of my childhood nightmares.
The giant was your father?
Wow. That was always your interpretation, Doc Freud. Still blowing out the old school jazz, huh? By the way, it's very nice to hear your voice.
I had nightmares when I was a kid. My nickname is Unbreakable. They gave me that name long before the movie came out. I was the first into a burning building and the last one out. They said I was an inspiration to every man in my house. Ladder 18, Jacob Street, Brooklyn. But that came crashing down at 10:05 a.m. on Nightmare Day. That's when I heard that dreadful noise behind me, the sound of the first one pancaking down. One look back and I was running for my life. In moments, I was blown away. I was thrown 40 feet by a cloud of debris. I landed on a parked car and then I rolled off and I bounced my head off of the curb. I opened my eyes and everything was black. But I saw an image. The image of my wife and my 2 daughters. You know what I thought? I thought I was dead. I swear to Christ. I thought I was dead. Until the black smoke began to clear. My shirt was gone. It had blown off me, and I had a big crack out of my mouth and my nose just to breathe. They took me to a hospital. Guess what? Guess where I was later in the afternoon? I was back at the site. It was hell. nothing but shoes, paper, twisted steel, and the heat, the smell, the taste, and most chilling of all, the silence. We were searching. We were searching for survivors, especially brother firefighters. Does that make me a hero? No. I'm just another firefighter. My motto, never leave a brother behind. Never. That's why we were down there for months. Looking for their bodies. Those poor bastards. Never leave a brother behind.
These guys are a throwback to another era. Never seen anything like it in my life. Have you? Inspiring. I'm driving my obsession to help you. I have compassion fatigue. Huh? Tell that to guys digging for bodies in the pit night and day.
So, I was given 3 weeks leave from the department and I went back to work. Thinking I was okay. Until the first run came in. The guys put on their gear on the move and so did I. Except for my bunker pants. I got tangled up in the legs and the suspenders and I fell down and I couldn't get up. Or free myself either. The guys were standing around me laughing until they realized that I was crying. They saw that Unbreakable was broken, shattered. They'd sick of forking me. I was done. I was out for 6 more weeks. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't care shit in a boot. So my fire chaplain, Reverend Taylor, who used to be a firefighter, he told me to see you ASAP.
Okay. So what moment haunts you the most?
The first one coming down. That sound, that boom, boom, boom. My stomach is in knots. Doc, don't make me go back there.
You're here. Now let's bring the rest of you back. Tell me where you feel it the most.
This is crazy. Mother of Jesus. I see it all, frame by frame. I'm looking down on myself. I'm up in the air, in the dark, slow motion. I hit the car, now the curb. I see my family. I'm dead. No, I'm alive. The cloud is gone. I'm in the hospital. Now I'm back at the site. It's like a still photograph, black and white. I can't see it anymore. Well, now everything is replaying fast forward. Right here, right now, that was a trick. Did you slip me something? Just stick it up.
You know, we still have some work to do.
You mean I'm not done? So, I kept watching his hand going back and forth. Step by step, I relived and released more nightmares from that day and beyond, letting go of images while others jumped out of the hellfire.
Not in your stomach.
It's gone. Remember, I thought it was too good to be true. It was hard for me to trust it, especially since the big one. By the next session, I felt a hell of a lot better, but I was sleeping like crap. The nightmares I had as a kid were back. The bogeyman chasing me, letting out a dreadful sound. And then the doctor brought out the magic wand, and the truth came clear. See, my dad was a drunk, and he chased me screaming like a maniac until he caught me, and he beat me real bad. And that's why I became unbreakable. That's how I survived. It was life or death. And somehow I was able to let that go too. I don't know how this eye jazz works, but frankly, I don't care. In a week, I had it together and I was back in the house. And in our last session together, a thought popped into my head. I remembered that as a kid, my hero was Gumby. He came back to give me some advice. Bend. Don't break. The guys in the house still call me unbreakable. And then they give me a wink and a smile.
Wish I could be half the man he is.
Enough of this talky talk, I'm out of here.
The dream sound familiar? You said the giant was my father? Maybe you've been dumping your problems on me, screwing with my head.
Countertransference and resistance?
Ah, good one, Dad.
Good one, Dad.
Doc. I said good one, Doc. And I'm proud of my work with Unbreakable. Wish my dad could hear about it. Never lost a chance to win his approval. Dear old Dad, larger than life, controlling, out of reach.
Don't get too close.
Don't get too close. How did you remember that? He used to say that to me when I would hang on to him or tease him. You know, he's been on my mind. Have you noticed that the attack unearthed all the traumas we were already carrying? You see this with everyone. You know, like my fear of heights. Remember it, sir, at the top of the Eiffel Tower? I was only 6. The railings were low. The wind was blowing. Or my panic attack at Windows of the World. I had the image of the tower collapsing. Weird, huh? So us shrinks are getting a triple dose. Our own trauma from that day, all the secondary exposure, plus our own demons re-emerging. Somehow we think our disaster is unique? Ha! Hell, over 100,000 civilians died instantly at Hiroshima, the original ground zero. And too many of us think our response should be, wave the flag and nuke the Arabs. That's trauma speaking. And trauma begets trauma. And I can't get it out of my mind. I just just can't get it out of my mind of the children who lost their mothers and fathers, and the parents who lost their children. Cancer is horrible, but mass murder is unspeakable. A part of me wants to run and hide instead of helping those who lost loved ones. I have to remind myself that a sacred mission has been placed in our hands.
You have to help me. I'm hanging on by my fingernails. The moment I open my eyes in the morning, that wave just hits me and it keeps hitting me all day long. I miss him so. I miss him so. My son, Jerry, was killed in the collapse. He was a firefighter out of Rescue 1. I'm one of the lucky ones. Jerry's body was recovered. I'd be going crazy if I was one of those mothers who had no grave to visit. Lucky's a relative term. You know, I'm not lucky. Sometimes I can't tell whether I'm sad or pissed. Sad at my loss or pissed at the murderers. Pissed at our government. Pissed at the idiots who keep telling me he died doing what he loved. He's in a better place now. What I can't face is my anger at Jerry. That only brings out the guilt. I didn't have to be such a friggin' hero. If he wasn't, I'd still have him right here with me right now. Does that make me selfish? You know, words are empty. Words don't help. Words can't bring Jerry back, but neither do my tears. You know, I had this beautifully framed picture of Jerry in that damn uniform that took him away from me on my living room table. It used to bring me tears of pride, and now I can't bear to look at it. So I took Jerry's picture down and I wrapped it up. But out of sight doesn't mean out of mind. I carry it with me wherever I go.
Lila,
Huh?
please come up. Please go on.
Well, so I took Jerry's picture down and I wrapped it up but out of sight doesn't mean out of mind. I carry it with me wherever I go.
You have it with you.
You heard me. Wherever I go. No, you don't. I know what you're thinking.
Can you imagine yourself taking it out, opening it?
I have to.
No.
Good. Maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe. Okay, I can see it, but I don't like it.
Follow my plan.
I know that brain-stopping stuff. Right there. Right there. That's where I feel it the most. I see myself picking up Jerry's picture and moving the paper around it. It's like I'm unwrapping a mummy. But the whole thing feels like it's in slow motion. I'm in a cold sweat. I gotta face the truth. My son is dead. Not passed on. Not in a better place, but dead. Buried. Gone. I carry him for God's sakes. Daniel, I think I'm ready, but don't push me. How could this happen? How could you leave me? miss you so.
My tears were flowing more than hers. I can taste them even now, in the corners of my mouth. What could I say? Not much. Listened while Lala's eyes pleaded with me. For a few moments, I thought she was seeing Jerry's eyes in me. That still haunts me.
What happened is killing me. But at least I can feel it now. But Daniel said there might be more. He was right, damn it. Jerry's dad, another firefighter. I lost my Red 20 years ago. 20 years ago to cancer. I miss you so. Those words, they're not just Jerry's. They're Red's. One wound on top of another. We even went back to some childhood stuff, but we don't need to talk about that here. You know, I see a change in Jerry's picture now. I see that he's almost smiling, and I think that might be a tear in his eye. I'm still seeing Daniel. Last session, I told him, I'm doing better. I'm hanging on by my elbows. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
What do you say to that? I'm speechless.
So am I.
I noticed. That's why I need to talk. I need your feedback, your guidance. Martin, I'm one of many trying to help, but we're all paying a price. The emotional debris cloud rolls over us every day. We are both filters and containers. You know what I'm talking about? Of course you do. I want to read you something I wrote. Well, look at that. What do you know? Time to stop. Resistance?
Oh, come on. Come on.
I'll read it next Thursday.
I'll never let you see the way my broken heart is hurting me. I've got my pride and I know how to hide. I've got my pride and I know how to hide. All my soul. I'll do my crying in the rain.
You have a beautiful voice.
Thanks. I'm a therapist and a singer.
It's a nice combination.
Yeah, not when you're losing your voice. Thank you for seeing me at such short notice. I'm at my wit's end. I thought I was all right. Turns out I'm not. My practice was quite busy before September. Since then, I've been besieged. Almost all survivors. Have you treated any? That's a silly question, Yellow. It has been my sacred mission. Sounds narcissistic, doesn't it? Well, what has been an uplifting experience experience came crashing down on me. One patient too many, or was it the man himself? Such a tragic story.
Tell me about him.
I can't tell you his name. It's sworn disease.
Of course, you know this is completely confidential.
I know. But he's a high-profile person responsible for many people.
Is he a politician?
No. My lips are sealed. He swore me to secrecy.
Okay, I'll ride with that. So how has he affected you?
So tragic. Putting myself in his place. He lost the love of his life. Thank God they didn't have any children. She worked as a financial analyst at Cantor Fitzgerald on the 100th floor of the North Tower. She wasn't supposed to be there. They were still on vacation. She came in to pick up her mail and answer a few phone calls. They were going to celebrate their 25th anniversary with a special lunch at Windows on the World. Her body was never recovered, only her engagement ring with the inscription, "Forever Together." It was a mystery how it survived the burning jet fuel. He always carries it with him. Wears it on his pinky sometimes. Sometimes thrown up, sometimes thrown down. He says some people stare, but he couldn't care less. It's such a sweet one. It reminds me of his father. I almost died as a little girl.
Is your father still alive?
Yes. He lives in Florida with my stepmom.
What about your mother?
That's a long story. Ancient history. I'll save it for another time. My patient is finally getting back on his feet. He was suicidal for a while, thoughts, no plan. He scared the shit out of me. I lost a patient once. I took it so hard I almost left the field. It gave me nightmares for months. That affected my singing. But my patient is starting to do better now. He's on meds. 20 milligrams of Paxil brought him back from the edge. Somebody put him on Xanax, but I had to stop it. He abused it and got addicted. I almost had to hospitalize him.
Did you try brain spotting on with him?
Of course. At first he was skeptical and refused. Then he got so desperate he gave it a go. He responded quite well, but wouldn't admit it.
What's he doing now?
Shaky at best. Alternates between rages and depression. You know what? He listens to a song over and over singing to himself. I'll never let you see the way my broken heart is hurting me. I've got my pride and I know how to hide all my sorrow and pain. I'll do my crying and what breaks my heart and creeps me out at the same time. I recommended he take some time off, but he insisted on going back to work full time. That worries me because he carries so much responsibility.
Perhaps it's therapeutic for him.
Maybe, but not for me. You know, he spent the first week after the attack down at St. Paul's Chapel with a picture of his wife pinned to his chest. He lost it with me when I slipped and referred to her as dead instead of missing. That kicked up my bad dreams. After 6 weeks, he was back from denial and arranged a memorial service. No funeral, no gravesite. I thought then he was on the road back, but then he really fell apart. Have you worked with anyone who lost loved ones at the towers?
I've seen my share.
How are you holding up?
Actually, I went back to my old analyst, Martin Waterman. You know him?
Holy shit. Yeah, Sure. Good for you.
Whoa. What was that?
What?
Your reaction?
Silly me, I just remembered I forgot to call the patient.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Well, listen, I came to you for brain spotting. Everyone knows you're the best of the best, so please, no sound, left-right sounds, they skips me out. Just the pointer.
What'd you get over there?
I saw him there, but not for real, only in my mind's eye and in my nightmares.
Sounds like a good place to start.
My stomach is in knots. All I see is his face, close up. His skin is ashen and his eyes are red and teary. My heart is breaking. His face is changing, getting blurry. I can barely make out his features. Wait. It's my daddy. He's crying. He's reading a letter. I see a teenage girl outside a house. The house I lived in when I was 15. The girl is me. She walks in and finds a piece of paper. See the words on the paper. Finally got your wish. Now you can have her all to yourself. Now I'm choking, grabbing my throat. That's when I first lost my voice. In a flash, I was so shocked I didn't speak for a month. Mother resented the closeness I had with my dad. Sick jealousy. She was a paranoid schizophrenic. Hearing voices, accusations, vile things came out of her mouth. In and out of hospital, abusing drugs, alcohol. Her medications never seemed to work. She threatened suicide all the time. Pills, razors, poison, whatever she could get her hands on. She never did it. Mother disappeared when I was 15. We never heard from her again. I don't know if she's alive or
And what do you make of all this?
my mother's among the missing. So is my voice. Patience, drug abuse, suicide. No wonder I've been more triggered than Roy Rogers. It was right in front of my face. I never made the connection. Unbelievable. This is the first time my stomach relaxed in months. Never lose faith. I wonder if now I can finally work with my patient free of my own stuff. Yeah, and start to work on my mother wound with you. I got a lot of work to do now. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. I didn't even ask you if you had time in your schedule.
I'm here for you.
I won't be dumping my problems on you.
Oh, I'm fine. Remember, I'm seeing Waterman. Getting all my ducks in a row. Can you make it this time next week?
Yes, but
Yeah, no buts, or any ands, or ifs for that matter. See you next week.
I'll never let you see the way my burning heart is hurting. hurting me. I've got my pride, and I know how to hide all my sorrow and pain. I'll do my crying in the rain.
Nina, are you ready for me?
Yes, yes, please, come in. Welcome back, Martin.
I'll never let you see the way my broken heart is hurting me. I've got my pride, and I know how to hide all the sorrow and pain.
I'm back! Hey! Not yet. Any words of wisdom? Didn't think so. Want to hear a joke? You got no choice. It's my job. So, 3 women die and go to heaven. They are greeted by St. Peter. As they enter, they see thousands of ducks running around, flapping their wings, kicking up dust. St. Peter says to them, oh, just make sure you don't step on a duck. Within an hour, one steps on a duck. St. Peter leads her to a real ugly guy and handcuffs her to him. Seeing this, the other 2 become super cautious. The next day, the second woman lifts her foot, a duck scoops underneath, and she steps on it. So, St. Peter heads her to an even uglier guy and handcuffs her to him. Seeing this, the third woman starts shuffling around, not lifting her feet. She makes it a week, a month, a year, never steps on a duck. One day, St. Peter comes over, leading a handsome guy who looks like Brad Pitt, and handcuffs him to her. Puzzled, she asks, what is this? St. Peter answers, oh, he stepped on a duck.
Oh.
Did I see a smile? Can I buy this painting?
What Freud said about humor.
What do you call a platypus with an attitude?
Now that's a platitude.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
I had another dream last night. I was standing on an empty subway platform, the Gabriel station. Not a soul in sight. A train drifted into the station silently. I got in the front car, and it was empty. The train backed out and silently passed station after station in reverse. As I crawled around a curve, instead of a metallic squeal, I heard that faint cry of a horn. It was ethereal, yet haunting, but I wasn't afraid. Finally, the train eased to a halt. I exited and found myself standing at the Jacob Street station. It was enveloped in fog. At the far end of the platform, I was barely able to make out this ghostly image of a man. I was drawn to him. And as I approached the apparition, it appeared to be a policeman. Through the mist, I saw it was my father, wearing a police uniform. I began to sprint. He was smiling. Moments before I reached him, he vanished up the stairs. Breathlessly, I looked up to see him. Maybe he was gone, but placed on the steps was his police hat next to a trumpet. And as the stairs rose, they became a ladder which ascended into the clouds, and I heard the sound of beating wings. Then I woke up. You know, my dad died 15 years ago, a year after I left Analysis. Daddy, don't leave me. Daddy, I'll be good.
Excuse me?
Huh?
You didn't hear?
Oh, I heard a far-off voice. Sheila, come in.
I arrived at my executive job at 8:30 a.m. I was sitting at my desk, drinking coffee, readying myself for the day, on the 80th floor of the North Tower. The first plane hit 10 stories above me. I heard a terrifying explosion as the wall of my office was pushed 20 feet towards me. The building was shaking, swaying, growing. I grabbed my purse and told my coworkers to leave immediately, but one woman sat frozen in her chair. I put my face in front of her, shook her shoulders, and walked her out by the hand. It was then that I saw the offices across the hall were crushed, compacted. I knew no one could have possibly survived the impact. We ran down the stairs to the 70th floor, and I found the emergency door was locked. I assumed it would open automatically. It didn't. And you know what I thought? This is not going to be my day. So, we all ran back up the 10 flights to what was left of our office and began searching. Frantically, desperately. I found what I believed was the right key in the back of my desk drawer. Heading down again, I was haunted by the thought that, what if it doesn't work? It did. Thank God. I can barely recall the rest of the climb down. I thought, what? I remember seeing the floor numbers blur from one to the next. At the 50th floor, I borrowed a cell phone from an angel of a man and called my daughter in LA. All I got to say before we were cut off was, "Don't worry, I'm still alive." When I reached the 30th floor, I saw firefighters coming up the stairs, schlepping 50 pounds of equipment on their backs. It was amazing how we all felt lifted by their presence.
All those firefighters. It was Jerry. Lila's son. The fire chief I treated told me he was haunted by the image of his men lined up waiting to march in. He saw the fear in their eyes that comes with knowing that there's a good chance that you won't make it out alive. No one broke ranks. Not one. 2 firefighters stayed with a group of handicapped people on the 25th floor who couldn't make it down. Their choice was to abandon those people and save their own lives or stay. They stayed. These guys are like war heroes. I know I could never do what they did. After the attack, I found myself climbing the 7 flights to my office, not to avoid the elevator, but as an unconscious tribute. Martin, what is that?
What?
What are you hiding?
It's nothing.
Nothing. Sometimes the naked truth is right in front of your face.
Sheila, please come in.
Martin, she's my patient.
It took me close to an hour to make it down those 80 flights. And when I finally reached the first floor, relief washed over me. You know what I thought? I thought that maybe this is going to be my day. And that's when the door to the plaza opened and the woman ahead of me screamed, "It's Armageddon!" Then everything goes blank. The next thing I remember is I'm outside, wandering in a daze, picking debris out of my mouth and nose, and I still don't know what happened, how I made it out. Maybe I'm better off this way. I do recall a couple saw me, and I was walking aimlessly in the dust, and they took me up to their apartment and let me shower and gave me fresh clothes, and then I was back in the streets, walking north to the Port Authority, where I caught the bus back to Hoboken, where I live, on the 25th floor of my apartment building, facing Manhattan. So I pulled the shades and I stayed inside, frozen in shock for a week, until a friend brought me to see Daniel. And the first thing I told him, I have no past. So I started with the only time I had, the present. After 2 sessions, I was beginning to emerge from my frozen state. Then the next week, a crane collapsed next to my building. The alarms went off and I had to evacuate down the stairs, 25 flights, all the way down. And 2 thoughts just kept ping-ponging in my head. It's not my day, it is my day. It's not my day, it is my day. But I could not truly recover until I healed the greatest trauma of my life. What could be worse? Sarah. Sarah, my daughter, was 23 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I received the news of her condition in 1998, on September 11th. Sarah's treatment took 1 year of hell. That almost killed me.
You know, we still have work to do.
I know. The plaza. Right there. Right there. I heard the scream. It's Armageddon. I walked through the door to the plaza. Everything is brown and black, and it's burned out like a cavern. Nothing's left except bare lights are hanging and spraying sprinklers. Where are the marble walls? They're gone. It's Armageddon. Hell on earth. Oh, how could it be? Oh, that had to be the fireball from the freight elevator, the burning jet fuel from the first plane. Now, cops and firemen are leading us out. I'm walking, but I'm not looking down. I'm stepping over and on charred remains. We're walking to the frozen escalator in the lobby. I hear an ungodly roar behind me. What is this? Everything is in slow motion. I look down at my feet. They're lifting off the ground. I'm rising into the black, turning head over heels. Oh, that must have been the vortex of debris that was forced inside the plaza after the first tower came down. It's no wonder I forgot. I land. I open my eyes. I'm blind. I'm feeling below with my hands. I feel a body. It's warm, lifeless. I gasp for air. Something presses on my face. A mask. Oh, I can breathe, and I feel an arm pulling me to safety out of the building. I'm outside. I can see. I can breathe on my own. I can finally see my savior. Daniel, I was rescued by a policeman. I look at the nameplate, and all I can make out is Captain G.A.B. The rest of his name is covered by dust. I turned to ask him his name, but he's disappeared. He must have run back in the building. I gotta find him. I have to thank him, and I pray that he survived. I look down. My rings are gone, blown off my fingers. I open my purse. It's filled with blood. And it's even in my closed wallet. I take out my identification and credit cards, and I throw my purse and wallet in a trash can, and now I'm wandering in a daze, picking debris out of my mouth and nose. And I can't believe it. I made it. I filled in the gaps. I'm safe now. I'm whole again. It was a nightmare, but it's better to know the truth.
Goes for all of us. So where do we go from here, Sheila?
Well, maybe I can take the subway again. Maybe I can fly to LA and visit my daughter, and maybe I can live in the moment, and maybe I can think about the future and reconnect about the past.
It's time.